guys, welcome back to another episode of SoCal Watch Reviews. I am Miguel. This is episode 20. We got P on the other line. P, how's it going?
Yo, what's going on, folks? It's your boy P. Rouse back in the building.
Absolutely. And we got Fred on the other line. Fred?
What's happening? Fred from Saluso. How everyone doing today?
Doing fantastic. Guys, we got a very special guest. One of you gentlemen want to introduce her?
Go ahead, Fred.
So we have Kat from Tenn and Two, from the Tenn and Two podcast. Probably one of the few female watch reviewers and podcasters out there. So we're really glad to have her on the channel. Kat, welcome.
Hey guys, it's great to be here today. I'm so super excited about it.
Well, we're excited too. Absolutely. Now, Fred, I know there's women in podcasts. Like I think Revolution has like a podcast, but it's not all women. It's one girl, one guy. Kat, is that true? Are you the only kind of all female podcast out there?
I want to say that we're the only all female podcaster as far as like hosts go. But there's several. Right. I mean, like you said Revolution. There's Kara that's over on Houdinki. She joins in every now and then. Right. And then Love and Watches. There's a husband and wife duo. I'm probably forgetting a couple others, but One and Wound, they have a female that comes on every now and then too. So they're out there, but we're the all female. You get us every week, just us two chit chatting.
Yeah,
and having a good time.
I think that's super cool. I mean, it would be nice to hear more from a women's perspective, and just like us three, we do this, we try to do this every week, and we just talk and everything, but this is all from a male perspective. However, you do get some differences because of the ethnicities and the parts of the world where we live. We all like different things, we could afford different things, which is really cool, but having an all-female kind of crew running things and having you on the show is awesome. So 20 episodes, and how many girls have we had on the show, P?
None.
Exactly.
One.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
None.
Yeah. I get it. It's we're hard to find out there.
Yeah. No, so before we kind of move on and get into things, why don't you really introduce yourself and how I guess just tell us about you, and then we'll get into more detailed questions.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kat. I am based in Nashville, Tennessee. I run a podcast with my co-host Catlin, who's also a female that lives here in Nashville with me. And I got into this hobby probably, I want to say 3 years ago or so, somewhere around that time frame. And honestly, I was fed up with smartwatches. They were dying on me. They were failing. And was looking to get an upgrade, and I didn't really know what the upgrade was going to be. And around that same time, I was super obsessed with Joanna Gaines, you guys may or may not be familiar with. Mm-hmm. She runs the big Fixer Upper show. And she had a watch on in the episode, and her husband notoriously always wears a Rolex, but...
Upside down?
yeah, on the inside of the wrist.
The inside of the wrist, yeah.
Yeah, but she had a watch on, and I was obsessed with this watch, and I started diving into forums, and finally I found it. I think it was in the Watch You Seek forum, actually, and it was a Shinola watch, and that kind of just started the drive for me looking into watches. I got into that forum, and then realized that I kind of wanted an automatic piece, and so it went down a big rabbit hole, essentially, but I haven't looked back since.
Wow. That's kind of how it starts for a lot of us. I mean, kind of our origin story always comes out like that, looking at fashion watches and just kind of transitioning into more respectable pieces, if you could even call it that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's refreshing, like I said, again, to see it from a female perspective, because I am married and I talk about watches all the time. My wife is just fed up with it, and she just doesn't see it, which I was just thinking this morning, something very interesting. If you look at the fashion industry, it's mainly driven by female, right? Mm-hmm. Guys, we care about fashion, but not like women do. However, for me, a watch really, in essence, it's kind of a fashion accessory if you really look at it, because depending on what you're wearing, you want to wear a diver, an elegant piece, or the color of the dial, or whatever, right? So I would think, because it's something that's pretty, right? More women would be into it, but unfortunately they're not. And if they are, it's Michael Kors, right? They don't care about the mechanics. So I guess with that, let me kind of segue into brands. I know we all go through our phases of, well, I like this brand, I like that brand, but what at this point, I guess, what's your favorite brand and why?
Like what's my favorite brand today?
Yeah, today, not yesterday and tomorrow, because I know we all go through our phases. But today,
Yeah.
what is your favorite brand?
Today, it's a tough question.
It
I flip around a lot, but one brand that I actually don't even have in my collection right now, but I'm a huge fan of would be Nomos. I think that brand, pound for pound, they're doing it right now, and they're not at the forefront of watch community and watch talk. I think they're there, but I don't know. I feel like some of the bigger brands that kind of take the lead, but they offer the same watch in multiple sizes. They have honestly a piece for anybody. It doesn't matter what style, what size wrist they have. There's something that I think appeals to everyone with that brand. And I hope they do become more popular. But I've always really loved Nomos, and they're still one of my favorite brands out there at the moment.
Is there a reason why you sold your Nomos then? Because I know you had one.
I did. I had a club campus. I sold it because it didn't have a date, and I've gotten to the point where I know it sounds stupid, but it's just one of those complications that I just have to have on a watch. So unless the watch is like sub $500, I can kind of do without it. But if I'm spending over $1,000 on a watch, I want it to have the one thing that I actually use and need every day. So now, that being said, they have models that have dates on them. So, I don't know in the future. I could definitely see myself owning another one. But yeah, I still I have a lot of love for the brand itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. P?
You've been a collector for a while. What made you want to start a podcast and become an influencer?
So, an influencer! Wow.
Yeah, of course.
That sounds weird. I'm not used to being called an influencer, but I guess anybody on Instagram, in my opinion, is an influencer because we're out there, we're posting pictures of watches on our wrists, and someone might go out and buy that watch because they saw it on your Instagram profile, and from that moment on, you're an influencer. So I don't take the term too lightly, but I am honored by it. But so I guess when I started this hobby, I quickly noticed that obviously there wasn't a lot of women. There just wasn't a lot of women out there, at least on the forums and on Facebook groups and even on Instagram, that weren't just like, models showing off pieces for other people, but there's plenty of those out there.
Yeah.
So I got into the hobby a little bit. I was buying and selling quite a bit, was finally building up a collection and thought, I want to get my opinion out there. I want to tell the female side of things. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll do a YouTube channel. And I did a test run here at my house, and I filmed myself for like 20 minutes, watched it back, and was like, this is crap. I cannot watch myself. This is going to take forever to edit video. I was like, this is not for me. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll do a blog. I am the world's like slowest writer in the world. So yeah, I was like, I kind of knocked that out. And then around the same time, I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to Houdinki and Worn and Wound and stuff like that. And so I thought, well, maybe, this is an avenue I can go down. But the problem was, and as you guys know, if one person gets on a podcast and talk for an hour, it can be a little boring.
Right.
So I knew I had to find a co-host. And that became a challenge because I wanted another female. I wanted to have that perspective that wasn't really out there. And as you guys know, there's just not a lot of women in this hobby. So I guess the search kind of began, and I started looking at some female Instagram profiles, kind of stalking them, if you will, for a little while. I'm just gonna go ahead and admit to it. But I had been friends with Catlin for a while on Instagram, and she lived here in Nashville, and she was part of the Nashville Watch Club. I had actually never been to a Nashville Watch Club meeting. And so I said, all right, I'm going to go, I'm going to hang out, I'm going to meet her and just kind of see what the chemistry is like and see how she is. And we immediately hit it off. And I got home that night, and I might have even messaged her when I got home that night about meeting for coffee and discussing maybe doing a podcast together. And really, when we did this podcast, I had only met her like twice. And
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But so it's not like we had been friends for a long time. We had, talked here and there on Instagram, but that was basically it. But to find someone that was in my city, that was another female, that is into watches even more than I am, is pretty rare. And yeah, I'm just incredibly lucky to have found her. I can't imagine doing it with anybody else. She's become one of my best friends, and we talk every single day. But yeah, it's been great, and that's kind of how the process started.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Well, before
Yeah.
we move on to the next question, I want to put it out there, but I know I sent Catlin a message as well, and I'm like, hey, we're having Kat on the episode this time, but hopefully in the future we could collab or something because it's super cool. I mean, you guys are down to earth, and I mean, I want to think that we're down to earth too. We're not snobby at all. We hate
Yeah.
snobs on this neck of the woods, and hopefully we can have her on because you guys do make a very, very awesome duo. I've heard every single one of your episodes. In fact,
Thank you so much.
I've heard that Scottish Watches episode before you guys even started anything, and I was kind of aware of what was coming, and I was very excited, and I was not disappointed. So that's super cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm sure she would love to be on, and we would love to collaborate with you guys even more. But yeah, and
cool.
I think that we're just talking about like the podcast realm, and there's some podcasts that I try to listen to all, but there's some that are a little bit on the snobbier side, and that have a different price point than I think the everyday person's looking for, and we try to, and like you guys do, we try to cover everything. We try to cover. Yeah, we're going to talk about Pateks and stuff like that, but we're also going to talk about Seikos, and we just talk about what we like and what interests us. And I think people appreciate that at the end of the day. We're not trying to sell anything. We're just talking. So, and like you guys, I think that's needed in this hobby is more people just chit chatting about watches, and that's another reason that at the end of the day, I encourage people to go to watch club, meetups and stuff like that, because it's awesome. And we, people keep telling us, you guys feel like our friends. We listen to you every week. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, go to your watch club meetups and hang out with people. And it's so much fun. I mean, that's what this hobby's all about.
I bet. Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. Now, before I get into the next question, speaking of Seiko, I was listening to it wasn't your last episode, it was the one before, talking about those Grand Seiko anniversary pieces. Did anyone ever end up getting back to you guys on why the two watches that have the same movement have different accuracies?
Oh, yeah.
Apart from the gold.
Oh, that's a good question. I think someone did message Catlin back. I'll have to get in there and look, but there was a reason. I think it had something to do with the quartz crystals. That they use, they handpicked those quartz crystals, and there was something to do with those that was the reason behind the watch being a little bit more accurate. But yeah, I need to go back and look at that for sure.
Crazy. Well, they grow their own crystals, right? Am I okay? Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
they
that's
do.
like just their top cosecha harvest. Sorry, too many languages in my head.
That's fine.
All right, cool. I was just curious about that because I was listening to that like just when I was on my way home the other day. But I wanted so obviously the female experience is completely different in this hobby, but more than just what I guess guys we would see is okay. The difference is that like just girls get sold diamonds on their watches, But could you give us a bit of a closer idea, a bit more insight? Like this is a largely male dominated hobby. How would you say the experience is different being a female in such a male-dominated hobby, both in how, like, not just in what watches, like, people will try to sell you, like, when you walk into an AD or a store, but even at stuff like watch meetups, what's that experience like, and give us a little insight into the female perspective on that.
Well, I mean, we joke that it's kind of a sausage fest when we go to the meetups. I mean, I'm being honest. And there's I don't find there's an issue with that, but for a lot of women that could be very intimidating, that they might be the only female that show up. And so if they're not with a spouse or, a boyfriend or something, it can be intimidating. And I think for a long time, it was that for me. I think for me, it was more so not really the male female aspect of the reason I didn't go. It was more, I don't have a good, good enough collection to go. They're going to have, Rolex and APs and stuff like that. And I'm going to have like Seiko and then some of the lower end Swiss stuff. But going back to the female thing in the hobby, I've seen it. I've seen some negative aspects of this hobby. But I think for the most part, I want to say 95% of the guys in this hobby are really genuine and nice and open-minded to females coming into it. And then I also think there's 5% that are just assholes. I don't know if
Just
you guys
ruin
are
it
going
for
to cut this
everyone.
out. I don't know if I
Nope.
can cuss on here.
Yes, you
Okay.
can. You can say whatever you want.
Okay. I know I try not to cuss on mine, but occasionally we bleep each other out. But yeah, I mean, it happens. And recently I had a friend on Instagram. She's got a collection similar to mine where, I don't own a single ladies watch. I have no interest in them because they don't make any that fit me. And I think they're starting to, but so she's got a couple, she's got a Rolex Explorer, and then she just bought this Panerai that I think is like a 42 millimeter. And she posted it up on a Facebook group, and she was just hit by comments from these guys saying, well, you're wearing a men's watch. It doesn't look right on a woman. You shouldn't be wearing this piece. And I remember when I started and I got into the hobby and I would post pictures, not on Instagram, but, I think we see a lot more of that on forums and Facebook groups of the negative aspect. And, yeah, people just would hit me hard and say, why are you wearing a men's watch that's made for a man? You should buy the ladies piece. And it's sad. It is sad. And to me, I've told people this, that I regard watches like I do cars. I think cars are made for anybody. They're something that expresses ourself and our passion and our likes and interests. And if it's a sports car, it shouldn't be made for a man or woman. It's just a car. And I feel the same way about watches. And I think they express our personality, and there shouldn't be a label on them. And I hope that brands get away from that. And I think it'll help people a lot. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember all the instances I've gone through over the last few years. Definitely going into ADs and asking for a sports watch and being taken to like the ladies Cartier, and which is fine, they're great, but it's not really what I'm looking for. And there's that stereotype there. Have you guys had any experience with it yourselves? I mean, anything that you see,
No.
like women getting, beat up on the forums or anything like that?
I've seen in Invicta forums where women would buy these off the chain 52 millimeter watches and would wear them, and they would get bashed for that.
Yeah.
But my thing is, you do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like I don't have a problem with it. If that's what floats your boat, hey,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I and then I kind of figure like if women can go up, men can go down in size. So
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think a
see,
lot of the time, like brands, they seem like they really want to I almost feel like they're kind of like forcing, like they're trying to pander, but they don't. They still probably have a guy in that design office who's designing what he thinks a woman wants to wear,
Yeah.
type of thing. Like I noticed that when you look at a lot of brands, their women's collection, it's literally the same thing, just downsize and put some diamonds on it.
Yeah.
right.
And then they usually will take out the automatic movement or the mechanical movement and put a quartz in. So
Yeah.
I think in that sense, it really reflects when you look on the brand side, you can really tell what they're trying to push and sell to women as opposed to just sort of, and even in their marketing, like you see what stuff they'll put on a woman, what stuff they'll put on a man. There's not usually a lot of crossover. They usually sort of have a really demarcated line when, in my opinion, at least, like the difference is a lot more, there's a lot more gray area between what's a guy's watch and a girl's watch, in my opinion, at least.
Mm-hmm.
but here's
Yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
and then, like when I look at a woman's watch, sometimes it just doesn't look aesthetically pleasing to me. So I could understand why a woman would go for a male's watch. I don't know if you've experienced that. Like you said, you don't have any women's watches in your collection. Is that why? Because they're not aesthetically pleasing?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the diamond encrusted, bezels and stuff like that. Not to
Right.
say that there are watches that I like that have diamonds in them, but typically that's not my style. That's not who I am. Now, to say that, I mean, there's women collectors that like those watches, and that's fantastic and that's great. But I think also if we look at what women are wearing nowadays, women are wearing 44 millimeter Apple watches, and they're wearing big
Right.
Michael Kors watches, which are the quote unquote boyfriend watch. Women want to wear bigger pieces, and they like that sports watch feel. And I think brands should take to that and start making more watches that can fit both male and female. And I think we're starting to see some brands advertise a little bit better. I know Tudor, they've got several advertisements now with the BB58 on a woman's wrist and shopping and things like that. And that's great. Like, I want to see more of that, because women, we buy what we see other women wearing. if we don't see other women wearing it, we're not going to buy it. And it takes a very strong person to be very passionate about something to go out and buy a man's watch, because there's no other women doing it. So I want to see, I want to see more brands taking that awareness and, putting their other watches on women. And there's nothing wrong with having a ladies collection and having smaller offerings. But again, I think let's just start to take the labels out of things and just say, this is a 28 millimeter, Rolex Datejust, and then this is a 36 millimeter Datejust, and then just offer them in different colors and variations, and people are going to pick what fits them, and they don't have to worry about that label that's on there.
Got it. Well,
Absolutely.
Well, look, I do agree that maybe they should put out watches that are gender neutral, if that's a thing. Because obviously in the U.S., we're making a huge push about homosexuality and LGBT and all this other things, right? So it's a huge deal where you can discriminate, and if you discriminate as yet in certain sectors of different things, cars, shoes, watches or whatever, there's segregation. I mean, let's call it what it is. And we see it all the time with our YouTube channels and with our podcast. Every time we talk about Amish watches or about this or whatever, you get all these haters coming out, right? Because, oh no, this and that. But you know what? You just got to be open-minded. However, we're looking at this whole women watches thing from a perspective of a collector, right? A watch enthusiast. However, we are not. I don't think we're all in marketing departments in the watch industry. So maybe they've done their research. Maybe they're thinking, you know what, these women watches with diamonds or whatever sell. So if they make us money, we got to keep doing it. And I'm telling you this because, like, my wife. Yeah, she likes oversized watches, but she likes them to look pretty. She likes them to look soft. She likes them to have a little bit of, maybe not over bling, but a little bit of bling. But if she sees my watch, she's, that looks too like much like a guy watch. I don't like it. It's cool. I like the size, but it looks too much like a guy watch. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's so hard. This is like such a hard thing. If I was working for a watch company, I don't even know what I would do, because it's like I don't want to label things, and I think women don't like 26 millimeter watches. I think that was maybe really old school. I think it's more of a modern, maybe what would you say, 36, 38 would be kind of like the perfect size. Maybe 40.
That's a good wheelhouse for sure.
But anyways, going into what I was going to ask, I've obviously seen more women, being in this hobby and kind of becoming collectors and talking about watches. In my opinion, before you tell me your opinion, I don't think it will ever get to the 50-50 kind of ratio where you have female collectors and male collectors. But I might be completely wrong. I mean, who would have thought a few years ago, that things were going to be the way that they are now? When I look at TV, what my son is watching or whatever, it's just like things are so different than what they used to be back when I was growing up. So in your opinion, do you ever think it will get to 50-50 as far as the collecting?
No, yeah. I mean, Miguel, I pretty much agree with you. I don't think that, at least in my lifetime, it'll ever be 50-50. And the reason is because, there's still a big part of this hobby that's very mechanical, very driven in the mechanical aspect of the watches. And I like that. And that's one of the reasons that drew me to it. And I think that it's going to be very hard for women to get into that, because women do like more of the fashion aspect of it. And until the hobby becomes okay with that, I guess, then it's going to be very hard. And I look at things like car enthusiasts. My dad's been a car collector for a long time, and that group of people have been around since cars have been around, and there's still very little women in that hobby. So I feel like it kind of goes into watches as well. I mean, obviously, I would love to see more women in this hobby, and I think hopefully, our goal with doing our podcast is that hopefully more women would listen in and start to collect. And we've had a few, but I mean, the reality is 98% of our podcast is still listened to by guys, and that's okay. But we're seeing more female YouTubers now, and I'm so happy, and I think that's a great step forward. And while brands and stuff can advertise and they can sell more watches to women, I don't know that more women are going to come into the hobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you hit a really good point, and here's my thought, or my what I'm thinking, because I'm Hispanic, and I could only attest to this. In my culture, there's a lot of machos, right? That women are looked down upon. The guy's always on top. You know, we're the leaders, right? So maybe, and this is just hypothetical, and I don't feel this way, guys. So anybody listening out there, I don't feel this way, but I know my YouTube channel. 100% of my viewers are males, and 100% of my viewers are in my age group, kind of like in the 30s, mid 30s, 40s, whatever. So what I'm getting at with this whole machismo thing is, if you have a female YouTuber kind of telling you, recommending you what to, you almost feel like, why would I take advice from a girl? What the hell? Like,
Yeah.
I don't, why is she telling me what to wear? Or how can she tell me that something's better? How can she know more mechanics than I do? And it hurts your ego, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just putting it out there. I mean, that's out there for sure, you know?
That's a great point. That's a fantastic point. And it very well may be true.
Yeah.
I don't argue that.
Yeah. So, Pete?
Yeah, I think they're sadly mistaken though, because women
They
has
are.
cultivated cultures for years on end, and the watch game ain't nothing but another type of culture. So I'm pretty sure, you know, women are going to come up in that also. You know, as long as they see other women blazing the pathway, you know what I mean. You know, you can't hold down a gender, race, or whatever to what you think that it may be. So, you know, I'm all for it.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is that we have Tenn and Two being trailblazers of this hobby. It's true, 100%. I mean, we're talking to you. Obviously, you guys are making an impact in the community, and you're going to keep growing and growing. And I see your numbers kind of multiplying, and that's awesome. So, you guys are gonna do something right for women in this community. So,
And speaking of that, you and Catlin defended the latest Bethany Frankel Talking Watches interview. Do you think that she was misrepresenting as a woman, or what's your whole stand on that?
Yeah. Oh, that was a big fiasco.
yeah,
So my opinion, and I think Catlin stands pretty close to mine too, is I think people were a little harsh on her. And to be frank, and I'll say this just from the start, I don't think anybody that's shown on Talking Watches represents me or the watch community.
correct.
These are just one person that likes watches, and I think if they're passionate about watches, then they deserve to be on the show, and that's the only criteria in my mind for the show. I wish that, maybe they could have had someone else that was a little bit more knowledgeable, but people were hating on her. She got the watches from her exes, and she didn't really know anything about the movements. She bought a watch because she liked the way it looks. Well, for me personally, the aesthetics of a watch, I put movement, I consider it, but the movement's not the most important thing in my list. If I'm looking at a top 5 things, reasons why I want to buy a watch, the movement's usually at the bottom, because first I got to like the look and the feel of the watch. And if I don't, then it's discarded. It doesn't matter what movement's inside. So I feel like people are a little bit unfair there. And, I've seen a couple episodes. Well, I've seen most, if not all of the episodes of Talking Watches. And they've had guys on there that don't know anything about their watches either. That she probably knew more about some of the pieces she had than they did. I mean, I get it. I get why people hated on it a little bit. I just think it was a little bit unfair, a little bit ruthless. She has a different way of collecting. We all have different ways of collecting. Yes, she had exes that gave her watches, but you know what? Daily, I see on Facebook groups that, oh, my wife bought this for my birthday. She bought this for her anniversary. So men are getting watches from their spouses just as much. Now, granted, they may not have as many, relationships as she did, but they're still gifts, and they're still given. And I think, all of us in the watch community, when we're with someone, I tell my husband, hey, don't worry about getting me a gift for, my birthday. How about you buy me this watch instead that I really want? I'll make it easy on him. So, and who's to say she didn't do the same thing? And I think if you watch the video, she clearly likes watches. Like, she reached out to Hodinkee in the first place, and that alone should be the fact that a female knows who Hodinkee is and reads their magazine or their blog and and wanted to be on their show. I mean, that's a big step. She obviously has a real passion for watches. And yeah, that's my stance. I don't think it misrepresented women because honestly, I don't know a lot of women collectors. And so I can't fairly say that she misrepresented us as collectors in the hobby as women because everybody's so different. Just like, if they had, they'll just say John Mayer, does John Mayer represent you and the way you collect? Well, you guys are two different people. I feel like it's unfair to make the comparison there. But yeah. What about what did you guys
I
think?
agree with you. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, for me, it's kind of like what is the criteria for someone even being into watches? Like, do you have to like the aesthetic, the movement? Because when we first started, we didn't know nothing about movement. I know I didn't at a young age. I didn't know nothing about movements. I was just looking at watches because I thought they looked good. You know what I mean? So my question is like, what is the criteria? I think it could be anything. I don't think you have to be like 100% knowledgeable about the craft, just passionate about what you like.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you guys think that all the negative comments that they got was people just hating because you had some heavy hitting pieces in the collection? They're like, oh great, this girl doesn't even know about the movement and everything, and I do, and it's not fair that I don't own that piece. That might be a part of it, I don't know.
I can see that. And I thought she was kind of funny too, like entertainingly funny. I liked it,
Yeah, I thought it was a good episode for sure. And my thing is, they had Cara, come on and interview her, but I think let's get Cara, out there interviewing, guys that are into watches. She shouldn't just be a part of interviewing female guests, because she's got her own collection and she's a great writer for Hodinkee, and I think I want to see more of her. But yeah, it's funny, I didn't think about that, but I think you're right. Where maybe there's some jealousy going on that she owns some pieces that a lot of people honestly just can't even get a hold of right now. And the fact that she just thought it was pretty and that's why she has it. But,
the irony being there's so many people who want a Hulk, for example. They just know it because it's the expensive Rolex.
Exactly.
And they don't and they can be guys and they can still not know shit about the movement or the importance of it. It's no, the green one. Yeah, the green one.
Right.
Well, exactly. I mean, how many people see wearing Rolex and AP and Patek that know nothing about the watch, only the status of it? So
exactly.
That's a lot of them.
Yeah. I think it was a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a lot of extra scrutiny on it, probably because it was a woman feature. I'm not sure if it was the first time though they had a female guest on. Or
it was
at least the first in a while. First one.
No, it was the first one. They made it very clear
on it. But I think one thing for sure where they fucked up was just the way that they cut it. I think made her come off a certain way. Mm-hmm. They put three. People talk about her boyfriend gave us they put 3 boyfriend watches back to back to really ram home that point. Yeah. The way they cut the interview, I think, definitely worked against it and fed into that extra scrutiny I think that it was having because it was a female on the show.
Well, that was in the intro. They actually used that. Oh, my ex-boyfriend gave me this, and he honored me to give it. That was the intro. That was the intro.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a good intro.
They definitely, there were some parts that were real cut up, and I think the editing part of it just wasn't done very well. It sounded like on some parts that she had more to say about a watch, and then it was cut off and moved to the next. And so I do feel like I don't know who the heck edited that interview, but they definitely did not choose wisely for sure.
Well, I know for a minute there, she was talking about a watch that was her father's, right? So that's what I would have focused on, because for me personally, I didn't like that interview, and here's why. Yeah. Because I just felt like she didn't sound passionate, not about the reference numbers and about this, because I don't know reference numbers either, because I'm not a machine. I don't remember crap. I got enough going on in my life, right? But when I hear you, Kat, talking about watches, I could hear the passion in your voice. To me, it's more about gravitating towards the passion, towards this person really loves this stuff. She kind of well, these are pretty, I like them, but I didn't really hear the passion. Again, It might have been the editing, because if she would have said, what started it for me was my father's watch. This thing represents so much for me. I love my father and I see him in this watch and blah, 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 blah. Would have been like, that's very cool. That would have been the intro, you know, like hook us on that. Hook us on the sentiment of why you got into watches is because of a gift you got from your father or whatever, you know? So.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, there were some pieces that were shown, but she didn't talk about as well. And so I personally, in my, you know, my perspective, I would have liked to see her talk about maybe just 3 pieces. You know, I've seen them have people on the show that they only talk about a couple pieces in their collection. But maybe, you know, ask her to really go down deep into why she bought it and why she has it and the meaning behind it, such as the one she had from her father. And leave the ones that she had a lesser connection to maybe behind. But it's tough. It's tough. You know, I don't know. Maybe she's got some regressions about some of the things she said on the air and on the video. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a different collector than I am. Yeah. I don't hate on it. It's different than me. There's other videos that I like better, and I definitely want to see more women. But the problem is there's not a lot of women. So it's like I can see why they got her as soon as they could, because she reached out to them and it's like, oh, here's a female that likes watches and she wants to be on the show and she has a huge following. She's famous. And I could absolutely see why that triggered them to go ahead and have her on the show. Because, you know, all I see in the comments is like, you should have had Ellen on the show. You should have had Ellen. It's like, well, there's got to be more women than Ellen out there that likes watches, but the fact of the matter is just hard. It's super hard.
Well, here's the crazy thought. So I know Talking Watches obviously is mostly famous people, right? Baseball players, chefs, whatever. Yeah. But like you said, the female perspective is or female collectors are very hard to find, right? But you have Tenn and Two. Now, it sounds like a stretch, right? Yeah, you're crazy, Miguel Houdinki. It's not that crazy. We had Cameron from Craft and Tailored in one of our shows, like early episode. That guy is like really good friends with Ben and Houdinki, and we had him on our show, and we were like kind of drooling over here, like I can't believe we got this guy, because at the end of the day, they're collectors and they could be really cool people. So I would love to see you guys on that show on Talking Watches. I know it sounds crazy, but it really isn't. If you guys reach out, I would love to see you guys. We would totally support you. I'm serious, you know? So.
Oh, thank you. That would definitely be maybe the highlight of my life, being featured on Houdinki.
Forget being married.
Yeah.
Put on wedding day.
No.
Talking Watches.
Houdinki.
That's so funny.
No. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think people were a little harsh, but it's okay. It's fine. You have to learn to brush stuff off. I didn't take anything personally. Things got a little heated on some of the forums and Facebook groups, and you know, we had a lot of backlash on ourselves personally that we took in from that. But you know, at the end of the day, you just move on. You know, those people don't represent the watch community as a whole. Like I said, that's that 5% that's out there. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Now, knowing that, like, obviously there are so few sort of female collectors in here, what would you recommend to, you know, to a female collector or someone like a female who's getting interested into watches, or even any new collector for that matter? Like, what would be, like, as the one thing you recommend to them going into this hobby, like from scratch, pretty much?
Just learning from my own mistakes. You know, I would say buy within your budget. You don't have to spend so much money to get into this hobby. I mean, you can buy cheap mechanical watches that you're going to have just as much fun with. And then also something that I got really caught up with in the beginning was when you're, you know, part of Facebook groups and you're part of Instagram, everyone has the same watches, and you feel like you need that watch to be a collector. Like you have to have a SKX or you have to have a Speedmaster. And that's not the case. And I've learned the hard way that, you know, I've gone through, I mean, I can't even count how many watches I've had that I only bought them because they were popular and everyone else liked them. I bought them, put them on my wrist, and the connection just wasn't there. And don't feel pressured to buy something because everyone says it's what you have to have as a collector. Everyone has to own a certain watch at some point, because I don't. And I think you do your research and you watch. I mean, we're at a point now that there are so many videos on YouTube. You know, use that to your advantage. Go on there and watch them. Because I love watching reviews. I love seeing the watch on people's wrists because I live in Nashville and sadly, we're not a big watch town. We don't have a lot of ADs. We have very few, so I'm unable to see a lot of these watches. And go to your your local watch meetups, because that's a great place to find and see watches in person. Try them on your wrist, and honestly, I've tried on watches there that I've later on went to buy because it was the first time I was able to put it on. But I don't know that I have anything specific to women other than, just don't feel intimidated. Don't feel intimidated by this hobby. Just be you and buy what you like. And at the end of the day, that's what's important. That's what makes it enjoyable.
So if that's your recommendation for people, what if a brand new collector likes an Amish watch? How do you feel about that?
That's something I go back and forth on a lot. I've had a few pieces myself, and it's like an inner struggle. It really is, because I absolutely feel that there's no shame in buying an homage, especially if maybe one day you want to own the real thing and you're wanting to save literally thousands of dollars to have this piece on your wrist, to know if you even want to save for it. And I did the same thing. I bought, I've had like a sub homage. I've had, I think I had a Nomos homage at some point too when I first started out. And I personally don't see there's anything wrong with it. Everybody's at a different budget level. Everybody has a different price range. Not everyone can afford to spend thousands of dollars on watches. So from my perspective, as long as it's not a fake, as long as it doesn't try to be a replica, I am okay with it.
Well, you got that Bulova Super Seville in your collection, correct? Mm-hmm. That's a Datejust or Day-Date?
Exactly. That's it's more of a Datejust homage.
Datejust.
Yeah, more of a Datejust
Fluted
homage.
bezel. I really like the way that you finished it, because I know you got it kind of beat up. You send it to get repaired, and I've actually been looking for a piece myself. Super cool. They're kind of creeping up on price. People are kind of starting to catch up on these guys. I've been looking at them for about 2 years now, and 2 years ago they were like in the high $100 range. Now they're like $500-$600. I'm like, what's going on here?
Well, I think the Super Seville, that one's more of the Day-Date version, and I had the Oceanographer, which is more of the Datejust version. But these watches were made back in the 60s and 70s. When Rolex was really popular with their Datejust models and was the homage of the time, but also was very, very well made. It has a 14 karat gold bezel on it and stainless steel case and
automatic movement.
Automatic movement, and has different touches, and they were able to have a little bit more fun with it. I got a red secondhand, and the indices are a little bit different than Rolex. So I think you can have a little bit more fun with the homages, and it's the same way I feel about people that mod SKXs and Seikos and stuff like that to make them more like something else. That's totally fine. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I've been a huge hater of homage watches for a long time, but I finally said, you know what, one of the things, and I've been telling the guys and telling everybody, one of the things that I always end my videos and my podcast with is stay humble, right? Yeah. Because I hate snobs, but I wasn't taking my own advice. I was hating against these people. So I said to myself, I actually told my wife, she didn't care, but anyways, I just told her in conversation, I said, you know what, I've been seeing this Pagani design and this other brand and whatever out there, and I'm just going to buy one just to see what the hype is all about. I mean, I love Rolex Submariners, one of my grails. I can't afford it, so whatever, Funny, I got it in. I was looking at it, checking it out, and I was like, you know what? I just can't believe these Chinese companies are able to fit in all this stuff into this price point, less than $80, right? Craziest thing for me, though, is I've reviewed some, I guess, pieces in my collection that have a little bit more heritage, and they're brands that are a lot more respected in the industry. And those videos haven't really done that well for me, right? Well, I posted this video, and so far, since I posted my unboxing and my review of that particular watch, I've gotten over 100 subscribers. It's crazy, and so many new people coming out of everywhere on Instagram, like, oh, I love this, I love that. So it's just crazy to think that we're in this like bubble where people think everything has to be Rolex or AP or Patek, but it's like, no, there's a lot of people with budget watches as well. In our last episode, we actually had Dave from Just a Watch, and he focuses on nothing but budget watches, and that has gotten a lot of traction for us as well. And look at Jody from Just One More Watch, same thing for him. He only reviews basically cheap watches, and there's such a huge following. So there's such a diverse. The hobby itself is tiny, but then when you start really breaking it up, you have different people from different sectors. And on this phone call, we have Fred. Fred is all about luxury pieces. He doesn't really care so much about. I think he's kind of coming around. I don't know, Fred, if that's true, but
you're putting words in my mouth, bro.
No, but
no, like I can definitely appreciate lower end watches, and like for me, a big thing, like one of the reasons why when I first wanted to collab with you was because like I think being in this hobby, you can't afford to be ignorant or be a snob. It's like I don't think you can appreciate a luxury watch if you don't know what the lower end is like, and like also seeing, like Miguel said, you know what people are able to do on a shoestring budget of a watch that was what, like $70 or something like that.
73 delivered. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. How much they can pack into it. It shows how far like the industry has come. Like if you compare it to like cars, like I'm not into cars as well, and you think like what's in like a Volkswagen Golf now was what was in like, you know, an S-Class 10, 15 years before that. But they managed to scale that down, and that in itself is like the beauty of how like the market evolves, because it also then pushes the upper end on, all right, what are they going to do next? You know, that's how you get stuff like that. That Bachelor, the perpetual calendar that has like, it slows down the balance so it can maintain its power reserve for like 60 days or something like that. Like I like the fact that it can still push the industry, and a lot of times some of these higher end brands is like, you know, shit, they need to get their shit together and you know, catch with the times as well. And the whole irony of it is that like this is all still an obsolete hobby anyway, but it keeps advancing. Like we can all just check the time on our phone, but it still sort of pushes the boundaries, and that's something I love about it. So I think I can definitely appreciate cheaper watches, but probably won't see too many of them on my wrist. Like, because I think one of my biggest problems, I bought into my first watch when I got into watches was an Omega, and that came from just, I want to buy myself a nice watch, and then all the research into it, I was like, oh my god, where has this hobby been? You know?
Yeah. It's hard to go back. It's hard to go back at that point. You know, if your first watch is an Omega, it's hard to go.
I bought for my own good, especially for how addictive this hobby is.
It is, yeah. I made, you know, like I said, I bought and sold for a long time, and I flipped a lot of watches. But I was also, you know, and I don't recommend that to people because I had somewhat of a disposable income to do that. But you know, I made mistakes, and you know, I was figuring myself out at the same time, and I've learned to know now, like, you know, what I like in a watch, and my criteria is very small but very, very detailed. And again, going back to the homages, when I first got into the hobby, I thought badly of it, especially, and I thought, you know what, if you can't afford the real thing, then find something different. And that's not really a fair way to think of things, because not everyone can afford a Rolex Submariner or you know, a Tudor Snowflake. They just can't. And even if they could, they may not even be able to find one nowadays. So I think, you know, it's fair to say that, you know, people should be allowed to buy what they want. Like I said, as long as it's not a fake, it's not pretending to be something it's not, then I'm personally okay with it. I wouldn't buy any now because there's other things that interest me. And it doesn't even come down to price point. You know, I like Seiko still, and I like those divers, and I like other brands as well, that I don't feel the need to have to buy, you know, an homage. But I can definitely see the benefit of it. You know, I've got an NTH sub right now from a friend that he let me borrow, and that thing is so cool. Like, the dial is crazy, and it's something you never would find on a Tudor, but this is the only way you're going to get it, and it has the same specs as a Tudor, you know, a Tudor sub, and it fits really good on the wrist, and I can actually see the benefit of having it. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't buy into it now, but that doesn't mean that other people shouldn't.
So I guess the main takeaway then from Fred's question, what would you recommend is basically buy what you like, right?
Buy what you like, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Unless
I stand by that.
Unless it's a movement watch, then don't do it.
It's crazy though, like, for such a passion-driven hobby, how much is like, buy what you like is still like important advice. Like, sometimes people still don't sort of get it, which is insane for like what's a passion-driven hobby, but people still seem to need time to arrive to that. you know?
Yeah,
But
I know.
it's such a weird statement, because here we are saying buy what you want, and if a new collector comes to us and says, "Hey, I found this movement watch, and that's what I like, and that's what you told me to buy," well, yes, but no, because so it's like,
Are we
I don't
supposed to be
know.
staying humble?
Oh man, this is so difficult. This is kind of like it's so
Mm-mm-mm.
hypocritical. Like that's why
It
I find
is.
myself kind of like in this hobby. Is like, what the heck's going on? Like it's just so weird. It's like at the end of the day, buy what you like, but at the end of the day, you really can't buy what you would like, because then you know
Hmm.
you're going to be criticized for it. And how much do you
Yeah.
care about criticism? Because I think even though all of us here in this chat say, "Nah, I don't. That doesn't affect me." Come on, we're all human. Of course it does. If somebody
Hmm.
calls you fat, if somebody calls you ugly, if it does affect you. Of course it messes with you, right? So same
Yeah.
thing with this watch thing, right? It's like, with this whole Amish thing, that's where I was. I was like, I don't want to be ridiculed. I'm trying to build something here. I got a podcast. I got this little channel. I don't want to be looked at as, oh, that guy. I want to be somebody respected in the industry, but I don't have money to go buy a Rolex. So whatever.
Yeah.
But let me kind of end with this before we talk about other things. So you're Puerto Rican? Are you part Puerto Rican, full Puerto Rican?
Half Puerto Rican. My
Okay.
mom is, yeah, is Puerto Rican.
Okay, so in I don't know about Puerto Ricans, but at least in the Mexican culture and the Chilean culture for Fred, I don't know. I think, we're kind of brought up to not spend a lot of money, be frugal, kind of watch your money, and just work hard and stuff like that. So I guess I'm just curious. I know you own Grand Seikos and Rolexes and all these expensive watches, right? Omegas,
Hmm.
and Rolex, of course, being the brand that everybody knows. How do your
Yeah.
family take it? I mean, when they saw you with that on the wrist, did they say, "What the heck's going on? Are you rich now?" Or what? What
Yeah.
was that? What was that?
I mean, it's a struggle. It is a struggle, and the first time that I bought the Rolex and I wore it to a family gathering, I had my little 7-year-old cousin who immediately, recognized the watch on my wrist and knew exactly what it was. He's seen, rap videos and sports players wearing Rolex. Probably the only brand other than maybe like Timex that he might know. But it's in an inner battle, and it personally it still is. I find myself when I'm going to any family gathering, whether it's my husband's family or my family, steering clear of pieces that are maybe showcasing my wealth a little bit because of the status symbol that comes with them. And it's sad to say, and a lot of people are very quick to say, oh, don't who cares what people think? It's your money, you saved up for it, and yes, that might be true, but I also I still I take in what people think,
Hmm.
and it sits with me, and I don't want to ever you know be flashy. My mom was a single mom growing up who worked her butt off for me and my brother, and then here I am, showing up to a family get together wearing a Rolex, and
Hmm.
I don't want to ever push that in someone's face, and perhaps that's why the watches I do like are pieces that aren't so recognizable maybe, and that aren't flashy, and I still am drawn to those underdogs, so to speak, with a lot of brands. So yeah, it's a tough thing, and a lot of people deal with that, and then some people just don't care. They don't care, and that's great. I so wish I had that mentality, but yeah, like I said, it's still an inner struggle, and I don't know if I'll ever get over it, to be honest with you. But the good thing is, I have I'm lucky enough to have several pieces in my collection where I don't have to always wear one watch, and yeah, like I said, I'm a bit cautious when I go to those things, and I think that's just my personality personally. How about you? Do you feel self-conscious?
Well, for me, obviously, I'll let Fred go next. But for me, I don't own a Rolex, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have some pieces in my collection that may not be expensive, but they look expensive, and I'm
Hmm.
kind of cautious around wearing things like that, just because I don't know about other cultures. I can only speak for my own culture, but there's a lot of should we say hate? I don't know if that's not hate. I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Envy. I guess
Yeah,
envy.
maybe.
Hispanics are our culture is very very sad. I
We
see
can
other
be a petty people.
Yes, yes. And you know the thing that I really hate about one of the things of the downfall of our culture is that we don't build ladders for people to climb the ladder and be better than other people. I see that in other cultures, and that's awesome. Like Asian cultures do that all the time for each other. You know, I see some people that do that, and unfortunately we don't, because like, oh, you got a bigger house. Well, I need a bigger house. You know, it's all about hate and hate and hate and hate. And yeah, I mean, we struggle with that, like kind of like with my wife and I. You know, we do drive a Lexus, and I remember when we got it, the family was like, "Oh, you guys must have money." And it's like, it's not about the money; it's about the fact that we enjoy how it drives, and we like this, and we like
Yeah.
sportier things. But people don't. At the end of the day, they're like, "Well, how much did it cost?" And oh, you guys
Yeah.
must be making a lot of money. And then they expect you now, when Christmas comes around, when birthdays come around, they expect a nice gift from the Miguel family, because like, well, they drive a nice car, or the guy's wearing a nice watch. And it's like, well, we're hobbyists, you know. When it comes to watches, it's like, if we get a Rolex, you don't know if I saved my money for 10 years and bought it not because it's a Rolex, but because of what it is, right? Is this and that, and I understand a little bit more than most people, but they just don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do find it to be a struggle. So it's like you don't want to show off your wealth, like you said. And I'm not rich by any means, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a difficult situation. So
Yeah, it is. And I think the culture, you know, as a whole, it can be very, very judgy, very judgmental.
very,
Like you
very,
spoke about in other people, and I think those that have wealth don't necessarily show it off, and there's some that do,
yeah.
but people are going to be judging them like crazy, and I feel that judgment when I go to family gatherings and I am wearing a specific piece, because everyone's asking me about it, and everyone's, you know, they're not going to shy away from it, straight up asking me,
How much was it?
did you exactly?
How much?
And you know how it's so embarrassing, and that's the reason why I'm just like, okay, well, I'm never wearing this again, you know, over
Yep.
here, and or anything similar. So it's the way it is, and it's not like that with my dad's family. It's not like that with my husband's family, but it is like that with my mom's family, who is Hispanic and
Yeah.
Puerto Rican, and I love him to death. But you know, it's just something that it's just a little hurdle that I have to go over, and being part of this hobby. And it would be exactly the same way if I drove, you know, a Lexus or a BMW.
Yeah.
They would be asking the same questions. So
Wow.
yeah, it is what it is. But you know, we learn to live with it.
It's definitely like that, like in the black community, like crabs in the bucket per se, as they say. But I generally don't care. Like I wear what I want to wear when I want to wear it. Like
Yeah.
you know, I don't give a fuck.
Well, Peace
You
is
know,
doing
Yeah.
that all the time. You show up with Supreme and Louis Vuitton, and
hey, I mean, my thing is if I like it, I'm gonna wear it. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm not wearing it to show it off to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the comment about like if somebody called me fat, right? I know I'm fat. What the fuck else is you telling me? Like, but I look good though. You see what I'm saying? Like
wow,
Yeah.
I'm that confident in my own
self
shit
confidence. Yeah.
that I don't care whether I'm right or wrong. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I was brought up all my life since my mother telling me that I look good. What the fuck you gonna tell me? You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, I just suggest to everybody, do what you like. If your family members don't like it, X their ass out. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't need that stress. It's already enough stress in this world. You know what I mean? So some shit you just gotta let go. Lig it. Lig it.
What about you,
That's it.
Fred?
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more with Pete. Like in that sense, like I'm a fucking terrible Chilean because Chileans we have like no concept of luxury, and it's very similar like what Miguel was saying that a lot of times we like there's a lot of that envy and pettiness. It's like you see someone doing well, it's like you just start hating. It's like, oh, you know, this like stuck up person and all that. And then the people who are doing really well, they generally don't tend to show their wealth, probably thinking of that stigma. And then on top of that, in Chile, if you have something nice, chances are it's going to get stolen. And like every time, like when I was living there and when I go back to visit, you know, like if I had something, like I always like nice shit. And like my grandma would be like, oh, you know, someone's going to steal that. It was every comment was someone's going to steal that. Knock on wood, no one ever stole my shit. But like,
Right.
there's that sort of pervasive fear that again reinforces not getting anything that's nice. And like, but on top of that, it's even if like, because I don't buy shit like for what other people think, you know, like and that's something I like in this hobby is there's so much there. It's like I came in like only knowing like Omega, Rolex, and like maybe like Swatch, and then now like you explore beyond like what everyone recognizes. Now it's cool. It's like I can have, you know, a nice watch. Like if I walk around with my Sea Timer, for example, it may be like more expensive than the next 5 watches in a row. But if someone doesn't know about watches, you know, it doesn't affect. Like and at the end of the day, I buy it because I like how it looks. You know, so I agree with Pete that at the end of the day, I guess this kind of reinforces what you were saying, Kat. That, you know, at the end of the day, just buy what you like. You know, like none of these are things that we need. So you might as well buy something that you enjoy, whether that's $5, $50, 500, or 5,000. As long as you enjoy it and not put too much stock in what other people think of your purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think with one thing with the, you know, the Hispanic community, is we're very communal community, which means we're very like close knit and tight, which also means growing up we share everything. Nothing is yours. Everything is the family's. And so when you buy something when you're young, it's like I was expected to share with everybody. It wasn't just mine. Whereas maybe in the Caucasian or American family household, it's more you earned it. It's yours. You don't have to share it with everybody. And so maybe that kind of comes into play with the, you know, material things we have now. You're looked at it as in you're not sharing your wealth with others. You're buying something for yourself, and you're looked down upon a little bit because of that. Yeah,
it's like that in the black community too. You buy a pair of pants, you know what I'm saying? We all wear that pair of pants, you know what I mean? You know, you having sausages and eggs, you're gonna have to split that plate. You know what I mean? But yo, when you get grown and you making your own money, you doing your own thing. I think it makes you selfish too.
Yeah.
Because you had to share everything.
Oh yeah.
And then
I'm totally selfish now.
Right. It means you value a lot more when you got like your own stuff and it's like your own space. Because even down to like personal space is up for grabs when you're growing up Hispanic.
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny. All right, guys. Well, you guys want to talk about other things and get close off? Kat, we'll let you go first. Anything you want to recommend? Talk about movie, food, whatever.
Movie, books, anything like
whatever,
that.
Whatever. Music.
Let me think what I'm into right now. I'm doing a lot of podcasts, like not just watch podcasts, actually. So I am like the world's biggest fan of The Office. I don't know if any of you guys watch The Office, but
that's what she said, right? Isn't that where that came from? That's all I know.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
So there's a new podcast with two women that were on the show, and they're kind of going back from the start, you know, episode 1, and giving you some behind the scenes stuff, which I just nerd out on. It's just another thing that's nerdy and geeky for me. It's called The Office Ladies, and then another podcast I'm really into is called The Armchair Expert, and it's with Dax Shepard, who is, I think he's married to Kristen Bell in real life, and he sits down with actors and singers, and also he has some shows that are with scientists and psychologists, and they sit down for an hour and a half, and they just talk about life and human interaction and stuff like that, and I find it very intriguing and very entertaining. So, yeah, and then let's see, I think I'm all caught up on my Netflix shows actually. So nothing at the moment that I'm binge watching or anything like that. What about you guys?
Me, I got 2 things. I'm actually on season 4 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Oh, nice.
Ready.
No more Star Wars, please, guys.
Getting ready for next week when season 7 comes out. Getting ready for that. So hopefully I'll be done. And also I went to Foot Locker Wednesday, I think. And I finally got the Air Jordan Retro 4s, the Black Cats. Oh, nice. My God.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
Oh, my God. And I got a 30% discount.
Oh, even better.
So, yo, these things are the bomb. Coated new bug leather. Oh, Lord have mercy.
That's awesome.
Yo, so
what about you?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, what about you, Fred?
What have I been up to? Actually, I started watching this Amazon series called I think it's The Man in the High Castle. Really, really cool. Like sort of like alternate history where like if pretty much it's like if the Nazis had won World War II and it's set in the 60s. So like they divided like America into half of it is conquered by the Germans, the other half by the Japanese. Then obviously like you know they got a little resistance forming up. You know after 20 years of fascism in the States. Really, really cool. I just finished the first season. There's, I think, 4 seasons in total. So I've pretty much lost most of my week. My upcoming week is going to be lost to that.
And when you really think about that, that's kind of scary.
That's
Hmm.
very
You know what I mean? Like, damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's
But
a
it's
good
really,
show.
really good.
Yeah, it's a good show. You'll like it for
I,
sure.
Right.
I like all like the world building, like all the attention to detail and showing like how like that would have influenced like the America that we know now. It's
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, before I tell you about my other things, we completely forgot to do the wrist check. So, Kat, what are you wearing today?
I'm wearing a watch that I have on borrow from a friend, which is the Grand Seiko SBGM 221. It's the automatic GMT that has that cream dial, and I don't know. I might be buying this watch. It is the most beautiful watch I've seen in a very long time.
Titanium,
It's
stainless steel.
It's stainless steel. Yeah, it's stainless
Okay.
steel. And, it's not spring drive. It's not 9F quartz or anything like that. But the movement is definitely nicely decorated on the back. And yeah, it's just I don't know. There's just something about it. And I haven't been this crazy for a watch in a while. So
I know you just
I don't
had a
know.
Grand Seiko and you got rid of it, right? So
Yeah, it definitely had the Grand Seiko finishing, but it didn't wow me. And I feel like I've come across so many Grand Seikos that have wowed me, and I just feel like if I'm going to have one in my collection, I wanted it to be something that I was really, really proud of and really wanted to wear. And the fact was that it was very similar to other pieces I had in my collection. So I found myself wanting to wear that, but then I go for my Explorer or my Manta instead. So this is, on the other hand, very, very different than anything else I have. So that may be a good thing, but yeah, I'm glad that I could borrow it for a couple of days and check it out.
that's super cool. By the way, I love your new Speedmaster. That's
Thank you.
yeah, it's awesome. That watch is super cool. It's a smaller watch, right? 40?
Yeah, it's a 40 millimeter.
40 millimeters.
It's one of the racing dials that they
Racing
did
dials,
for
yeah.
just a couple of years. But yeah, it's
Super
very
cool.
interesting. Yeah.
And it's automatic, right? So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, automatic, and yeah, it's got a silicone hairspring and everything like that in it. So it's very highly magnetic resistant, and it's just a workhorse movement that's inside of it too. Very very easy to work on as well. So
Awesome.
no need to necessarily send it into Omega if something were to happen to it. Which is good.
That's good. That's important. Guys, what are you guys wearing?
I'm wearing my Cartier Pasha again. After making the video, I haven't seemed to be able to take it off. So like I've still got it on. I've had it on for like the last 2 weeks now. I really need to show my other watches some love. But but yeah, I'm addicted to this watch.
I really like
even
that. I was
5
gonna
months
say
in after owning it.
I really like that video, Fred. Like you just kind of went into the history, and it's cool. A lot of people don't even know that Genta designed that. You know what I mean? All they know is the Nautilus and the Royal Oak. But then you kind of go into the history of this. Like super cool.
Yeah, it was a cool little way to not like go bankrupt for years and still have a piece of Genta history on my wrist.
That's super cool. P,
Below the sport, blue dial, blue bezel.
nice.
Kind of a. I guess it could be considered a sub homage.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Love
Absolutely.
Lola. Well, I'm wearing the guy that started the whole hobby for me, the SKX 007. So hated the bracelet. Got him this Uncle Seiko bracelet. For a lot of people, some people know who Uncle Seiko is, some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
But he's here in San Diego. Really cool guy. He's a pastor, so some of the proceeds actually go to foundations and stuff like that. So it just completely changed the watch for me with this bracelet. And the cool part is that I actually got it for free from another YouTuber here in Irvine, Sam. And yeah, he basically gave it to me. He got him for free, and we kind of became friends, collaborated, and I guess as a thank you or friendship, he just gave it to me in like an $80 bracelet right here. I wouldn't buy it for myself, but yeah, it completely changed the watch for me. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, I love this watch, honestly. I mean, there's some things I would change to it. You know, obviously the sapphire and this and that or whatever. It's cool. I just really love this watch. And
You think you'll mod it at some point in time?
I've been debating, and the reason why is because I do want to upgrade it, but I love the fact that it's original. And just like with vintage cars, there was a point where restoring the cars had more of a worth, right? But just like with vintage watches, if you restore it and now it's garbage, you want it to be as original as possible. And I know this thing is discontinued, and I know for now it's like, you're ridiculous, Miguel. There's tons of these floating around. Well, this is something I want to leave to my son. So who knows, 40, 50, 60 years from now, if I completely mod it, it may lose that charm. It may lose that not value, because I don't think they'll be very valuable, but for my son to go, you know what, my dad saw the vision. He saw that, yeah, he wanted sapphire crystal and this and that, ceramic vessel, but he didn't. And he didn't because he wanted it as original as it could possibly get it. If I want a sapphire crystal and this and that, I'll just get another watch. So that's my thoughts on that. So
No,
might be
I
wrong.
agree.
Whatever.
Well, and then, they got the new Seiko 5 models out now too that, I think without having the model watch, they're offering a lot of different colors and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
people can kind of get into those.
Yeah, I just have such a hate right now for Seiko for what they're doing and just moving up market and just modifying things and charging X amount of dollars just to put a sapphire crystal on the watch.
Yeah,
It's like,
I totally
so
get
stupid.
it. I agree. That's a whole nother.
It's a whole
day
other
of
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other things for me. Let me just finish off on this. I've always had a fascination for serial killers. Now, I'm not a killer myself. I'm a family-driven person, and
that we know of.
Pete, don't let the cat out of the bag. No, it's interesting. You speak to different people, and everybody goes through different struggles, right? Whether it be a divorce, whether it be rape, whether it be different things that happen in your life, and it's just really interesting to explore the human mind. And in this series on Netflix, it's called "I Am a Killer." They basically sit down with people that have convicted murderers, and they kind of go, "Well, why did you do it?" Kind of go into the story, and it's interesting to see that inner struggle. And to me, it's interesting to watch a person that when they talk about the good times, they're like laughing, and all of a sudden they start getting very, very dark and go into something, and you could hear in their voice of remorse. Some people don't, so it's just very interesting, and that kind of ties into the U.S. and I could only speak to the U.S. because it's where we live. But there should be more help for mental health. There should be more help for drug addiction, because a lot of these people, that's kind of why they got driven to do things like this, because either drugs or because of mental health. And it's really, really sad, And just to see the statistic in the U.S. alone, 8,000 people are convicted annually for murder. I'm like, what? But 10% of those people are only women, so majority of them are men. Just like, it's just crazy,
Yeah.
There should be more women killers, is what I'm saying. No, I'm just kidding. No. So yeah, I've just been watching that. It's just one of those things. My wife doesn't enjoy watching that, and obviously my son's not around when I watch that stuff. It's just very interesting to kind of go into their mind and be like, why would they do that? And how can somebody help somebody like that to just make this world a better place? And it's just hard. It's just, I don't know, I don't know, whatever. So that's what I've been watching. But anyways, any closing thoughts? Anything else you guys want to say before we tell people where they can find us?
Yeah, I just want to say another big thank you to having me on today. It's been fun, and I look forward to coming on the show in the future.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for coming on, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I know we all have different time zones and things we're doing, so I appreciate it. So, Kat, where can they find you?
They can find me personally at A Girl and Her Watches with underscores in between each word on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And if they want to check out the podcast, they can go to tennand2.com. That's TENN and 2.com. And we're Tenn and Two Media on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Cool. Guys?
Ross and Rich Watch Love everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Hit me up.
Fred?
Shaluso, all one word, SAHAHLUSS. So on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace.
Oh, jeez. etc. Well, you can find me SoCal Watch Reviews. Channel's growing a little bit. It's been a bit of a struggle, and I know I personally don't put out content that much. Been super busy. But yeah, find me SoCal Watch Reviews on Instagram, YouTube, and this podcast. Of course, if you're listening, wherever you're listening from, we do appreciate it. I know it's really fun doing this, guys. So yeah, we appreciate any feedback that we get either on Instagram or any platform that you're listening to this show on. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you all, and stay humble.
Yeah.